So much major news today we got to talk about for the Cleveland Browns. First of all, there will be an NFL draft in July. What? How does that work? That's the first thing we'll talk about. Then, who is Brendan Sorsby, this quarterback you've probably heard who got in some gambling trouble? He apparently could become a Cleveland Brown. Then we'll talk about if the Browns are interested in Brendan Sorsby. What has Monken said? What has Barry said? And finally, what is Sorsby's value? What draft pick would it cost to get Brendan Sorsby on the Cleveland Browns? Before we dive into all those stories, I want to know your first impressions on drafting Brendan Sorsby. Type Y for yes in the comment section if you would bring him to Cleveland. Type N for no. If you're like, no way, no how, let me know about this in the comment section. I don't think I'd do it. And let's get into the video. Welcome into the Browns Report, presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Joey O'Donoghue, and this is the breaking news that has come out from Tom Pelissero. Brendan Sorsby is applying to enter the NFL supplemental draft. Sources told NFL Network had a lot of legal wrangling about his NCAA eligibility. Sorsby, regarded as a first-round talent, now could be the highest drafted supplemental pick in decades, ladies and gentlemen. If you recall, Brendan Sorsby was a Texas Tech transfer quarterback, was checked into a residential treatment program for a gambling addiction. He went under NCAA investigation in the wake of that discovery. He had made thousands of bets via a gambling app. So, checked himself in to get some treatment. Seemed like he wasn't going to be able to play in college football again. A judge ruled that he could and have a 2-game suspension, but that was going to get appealed, and it was all going to trickle down to where it looks like Sorsby and his team just said, let's just go to the NFL and not risk not being able to play college football again. And this was a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Sorsby was placing bets on his own team, placed 40-plus bets involving Indiana, basketball and football, wagered over $90,000 over the course of 4 years, and he still made bets after transferring to Texas Tech. Like, it was a problem. It was an addiction. That is why he has not only gone to treatment, but was being investigated. And his bets ranged from some pretty weird stuff. We're talking not just the MLB, but UFC, tennis, Romanian soccer. He wagered on Turkish basketball and even the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I mean, unbelievable. Hopefully he was just picking Joey Chestnut, but still, this is an unbelievable, clear addiction for Sorsby that needed help. And with his eligibility in trouble, he's going to declare for the NFL supplemental draft. So that's to catch you up on the scenario, okay? Maybe some red flags with the quarterback we're talking about bringing to Cleveland all of a sudden. And let's talk next about how this supplemental draft works, right? Would the Browns have a high pick? Like, let me break this down real quick for everybody. First of all, what happens is the NFL will essentially send out an email to teams with the players that are available. Teams will put in a 2027 draft pick bid. Whoever puts in the highest round bid wins that player. The question after that, what if multiple teams put in the same round, okay? An order is determined randomly based on 3 separate groups. So there's a weighted lottery. For example, say the Raiders, have who had the number 1 pick in this draft, they would get 32 hypothetical lottery tickets or ping pong balls like they do in the NBA draft lottery. Well, Seattle, who was picking 32nd in the 2026 NFL draft, they'd only get 1. All right, and it's not like they're all grouped together. It's 3 separate lotteries. The first lottery is teams with 6 or less wins. The Browns would be in that early lottery, meaning their pick could hold more value. Next grouping is 6+ wins teams that didn't make the playoffs, and then there's one for all the playoff teams. So that hopefully helps break it down. Teams put in a bid from each round of their own pick in next year's NFL draft, forfeiting that pick if you win the player. Are the Browns interested in doing this? That is the major question, and that is the next one we are going to answer on today's show. Let's look at what Monken had to say about it and Barry. That's what's coming up, everybody. The Browns' leadership thoughts. And is Brendan Sorsby a good player? What's his value even in this draft? That's next. But first, let's give a special shout out to our good friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to go if you love daily fantasy sports. Player picks are on fire right now, and there is no better place to cash in while watching sports than with Prize Picks. Guys, the app is super easy to use. It's really fun, and it's daily fantasy. Pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. And I've got an awesome two-pick power play for the season coming up. It's $5 lineup. Payout $15 lineup. It's Ethan-style lineup with that sense. But we're going to go with the more on Kyler Murray regular season game started. I think he's clearly going to win that quarterback battle. I'm also going to go more than 6.5 games started for Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he did that last year, and I expect he gets at least half the year this year, guys. You can make the same lineup if you want. And if you're a new user, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA. You'll get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Link is in the comment section and description of today's video. That is code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. So are the Browns interested in Brendan Sorsby? Here's what we've heard from them. Todd Monken specifically, we will start with, had a strong opinion, it sounds like. Monken said that is not even come across my desk. I don't think we're in a position to want to go down that road. That's my opinion. That's not Andrew's. I like the quarterbacks we have. I think that's a slippery slope when we go down that, irrespective of talent in terms of the situation that he has put himself in. We have seen in other sports with players that have been banned for life from playing in professional sports. I think that's a slippery slope to go down that road. That is a question for Andrew Berry and for management, but from my end of it, kind of a tough angle to go down that road and think that's going to be your franchise quarterback if he's ever eligible to even play in the NFL. Very strong words from Todd Monken there, and he makes a great point. Calvin Ridley was gambling in the NFL. He couldn't play an entire year because of it. If this really is an addiction, who's to say Sorsby won't do it again and get himself suspended in the National Football League? It is a risk, and this notion of putting in a first rounder or second rounder for him is way too high for me. But it's not up to Monken. It's not up to me. It's up to Andrew Berry. And of course, Monken will have a great say, way more than I will. Monken will influence the direction the front office goes. In fact, I think it would be wildly dysfunctional if Todd Monken told Berry and Haslam, I don't want you to draft Sorsby, and they went ahead and did it anyway. Be terrible, and that would show you ownership really is a problem, and the front office is a big problem. So what does Andrew Berry have to say for himself about this? His words were a little bit more calmer than Todd Monken's. Andrew Berry said, it's no different than what we do every year. We will do the work on all the prospects, and then we'll make the appropriate decision for the organization. There's two questions I ask because we're all human. Is this a bad person, or do they make a bad decision? What are they doing after the fact to correct the behavior? I think probably within society, so to speak, we could all stand to use a little bit more grace. Well, I agree with the last part. Everybody could be a little bit more graceful with each other. I'll tell you what, the Browns are great at giving grace to quarterbacks that have had off-field issues. That's all I'm going to say about that. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not even going to go there right now. This is a Sorsby video. The Browns have definitely shown their fair share of grace to quarterbacks with problems off the field and have no problem paying them a lot of money. NFL insider Jeremy Fowler, though, starts to talk about the value of Brendan Sorsby, saying Sorsby would enter the draft with sizable value to teams. Several executives I spoke to over the past few weeks agree he is worth a second-round pick in the supplemental draft. One AFC executive predicted Sorsby would have been a late first-rounder if he were available in April's traditional draft. So Fowler, who talks to a lot of sources around the league, says he's hearing a second, which is wild. Matt Miller, who also works at ESPN, he's not great, but he does cover the draft a lot. He said he would have been ahead of Ty Simpson in this year's draft. Sorsby would have been quarterback 2 after Mendoza. Like, there is a lot of buzz around him from the scouts because he's got the traits. He's big, he's fast, he's got a good arm, he's mobile. I'll just say he would theoretically be a great fit with Todd Monken, but you heard Todd Monken doesn't want to go down that road. So what I think the Browns will do is put a bid in, because I get the sense that Andrew Berry would want to draft Sorsby if he could get him for like a 4th-round pick, and we're talking about a guy who's like a first-rounder potentially. Andrew Berry, knowing how he drafts, how he goes for value, he would do that. And I think Monken would say, I wouldn't go that high for him, but you're the boss. So my prediction is the Browns won't go higher than a third-round bid for Brendan Sorsby. I could see them putting in a bid and getting outbid by another team like the Cardinals perhaps, or a more QB-needy team. Dark horse could be the Eagles, Steelers, Texans planning for their future, Vikings, right? Because Sorsby might not even play this year. By the time he gets to a team, it's training camp, and he's got to learn the playbook. So I think the Browns does not make sense for them because might not even play this year. And Monken seems to like the quarterbacks we have that he's working with. All right, guys, you should hit that subscribe button to be the smartest Browns fan in the room as I continue to update you on Cleveland's perspective of things, Sorsby as a player. Be the smartest Browns fan in the room with your friends by hitting that subscribe button for free, guys. Appreciate it all if you would do that. And let's talk a little more about Sorsby from a scouting standpoint. An NFC executive said that Sorsby is an excellent easy thrower with the ability to make every throw. Big, good athlete, can go off schedule, can rush for touchdowns in short yardage and goal line situations. Lots of highlights. Would like more consistency, but a first-round talent for sure. One more team executive noted that Sorsby is a good game manager and decision-maker with an above-average arm. Well, calling him a good decision-maker is a bit ironic for the show we're doing right now, but I will say this. The Browns drafted Sorsby's tight end. They drafted Joe Royer out of Cincinnati. This is who Sorsby was throwing to last year. And Joe Royer is a big advocate of Brendan Sorsby, saying, I firmly believe he's a first-round talent. He's big, he's quick, he's got the arm, he's smart. He even said the sky's the limit for Brendan Sorsby. So, puzzle pieces adding up? I don't know. Coincidental, though, that they did draft Joe Royer as the first tight end they drafted off the board this year out of Cincinnati. So, lots to consider when talking about this concept. What a wild story. I'll have all the updates for you guys here on the Browns Report. But a bonus question for everybody that made it to this point in the video. Comment down below what draft pick you would submit for Brendan Sorsby. Go as high as the first, low as the seventh, or you might even say, I wouldn't submit a single pick for the guy. Let me know down below in the comments section. One other note about Brendan Sorsby is if nobody puts a bid in for him, he becomes an undrafted free agent, free to sign anywhere else. Keep that in mind. Could be more enticing for some teams. But the timeline for Brendan Sorsby is this. June 22nd, that was the deadline to apply for the supplemental draft. He will do that. July 5th through the 12th, Sorsby can hold a pro day, working out privately for teams, kind of like Jordan Tyson did. Where they would hold that, no idea. I don't know if he'd be able to go back to the Texas Tech facility to hold it there. That remains to be seen, but that's the window to do it. And then late July will be the NFL supplemental draft. So make sure you stay tuned, okay? Follow me on X at Joey070 and subscribe to the channel because I'll have every single update for you on this if the Browns are interested. I've been your host, Joey O'Donoghue. Appreciate you so much for tuning into the show, and I'll see you next time.